Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for the series premiere of Gotham, Season 1, Episode 1. This was the pilot, and I was planning on reviewing this show for you guys, once the season ended, but I decided that I would review it every single week to you guys, because it's a show that I don't feel like I can't not review to you weekly. It doesn't feel like a show I can't, and, you know, it seems like a show I have to review to you weekly, because I know it's a show that I was definitely very looking forward to. I am going to say this right now, I am not that familiar with the Batman franchise. I'm not. I have only seen The Dark Knight Rises and parts of Batman Forever. I'm going to be honest, I've never seen The Dark Knight. Do what you want. Yell at me, scream at me, burn me at the stake, whatever you want, but I've never seen The Dark Knight, okay? I will see it eventually, but I just never got round to see it, and I really wanted to, but I didn't get a chance to see it, and, at some point I'm sure I will see it, but I don't really know when. So, basically, I was really looking forward to this premiere, and I didn't know how it was going to be, though, because it's Fox, and Fox is pretty much my least favorite network. They don't make very good programming. They haven't made very good shows. Their last show, Gang-related, was terrible. It was not that interesting at all. I was not into it at all. They haven't been making very good shows in a while. They haven't made a lot of shows that last. And the thing is with Fox, you can never really get invested in any of their new shows because they're not going to last. This was a show I was hoping is going to last, and I feel that they're going to do whatever they can to make this show last. So overall, I checked out the pilot, and how was Gotham? Gotham was really good. I liked it. I thought it was a very good pilot. Now, it does have a lot of problems, don't get me wrong. It is not a perfect show in any way. It does have quite a few problems that it does need to fix up, and I will talk about some of the main problems that it has, but let's just get to this review, because overall, I really enjoyed this pilot. I was really into it, and I liked it. I thought it was really good. So basically, we see a young girl running atop a rooftop, and this girl, right away, we're just going to say it's Selina Kyle. This is Selina Kyle before she was Catwoman, and the thing that I like about the show is it's showing everyone before they were supervillains, before they turned into the criminals that they were, before, you know, we see Bruce Wayne before he turned into Batman and became a vigilante. We see Selina Kyle before she became Catwoman. We see those things, and I really like that about the show, definitely. So she stands, and she leaves. She scrambles down to the ground in Chinatown, walks in with a crowd, pulls a knife, cuts a bag, and snags milk from one shopper and a wallet from another. The man gives chase. She takes off, then scales a fire escape. He loses her. She scales back down another and sneaks away. So she checks the wallet and pours the milk into a scrap container for a stray cat, hears a giggle, sees a couple and their young son leaving the theater, and it's the Waynes and their son Bruce. Now, of course, when I saw this, I knew it was not going to end well. Because right away, a mugger pulls a gun on them, and we don't know who this guy is. It's some unknown mugger. We don't know who he is. And the dad says it's no problem. They're going to cooperate. And he demands the pearl necklace of the mother. The strand breaks, the pearls tumble, and the man shoots first the dad and then the mom, and Bruce Wayne is just terrified. The way that scene was done was really good in my opinion. I like that they didn't do it in the Christopher Nolan way. I like that they changed things a little bit because it's not what you expect. You know, you expected it to be the way it was done in Christopher Nolan, but it wasn't that way, and I liked that it wasn't done that way, because I thought it was well done. You know, while it was abrupt, it was well done, in my opinion. My problem with this, though, is we did not see enough of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is eventually going to become our main character. He's not our main character right now, but he's going to become our main character eventually, and we need to see a little bit more of him. I wish we would have. So, Bruce is trying to revive his parents, but it's too late. They're both goners. And Bruce cries and then screams. He sees their blood all over his hands. And at the police station, it is total chaos. And again, that scene was definitely very sad and definitely just really sad. So at the police station, it's total chaos. A large man is broken free, grabs an officer, holds a gun to her head, and a young Jim Gordon tells the officers to hold their fire and talks to the man. And right away, I gotta say, Jim Gordon was definitely the best character on the show. You know what, Ben McKenzie really does a great job with his acting. We'll get more into the acting a little bit later, but I definitely really enjoyed his character. I thought he was definitely really good. He asks for this guy's name. The man says he needs his pills. Gordon says he has his pills, shakes a bottle of aspirin. He offers the man some, and he says they aren't his pills. He lunges, punches him, and knocks him down. The cops beats the guy, and Jim tries to talk them down. Now, Harvey Bullock chews him out for not letting them take the guy out. Harvey Bullock is basically his partner, his partner. So Harvey and Jim are told they have a call to take even though their shift is almost over. And they're called to the site of the Wayne murders because obviously there was just a huge murder that took place. And they tell him the kid saw it all but hasn't spoken a word since then. And I thought that was kind of cool that he's basically just been kind of just silent about it. So Jim goes to talk to the kid. He introduces himself and asks his name. And he doesn't say. He's doing his best to try to... Excuse me. Excuse me. He's doing his best to try to bond with Bruce Wayne. It doesn't, but at first it's not working. Bruce, though, eventually does speak up and tells Jim his name is Bruce Wayne. He asks what happened, and he just breaks down crying because it's just too much for him to handle. Obviously, it makes sense. And then we find out that Jim tells him a very, familiar, Jim tells him a story that definitely was, very interesting because it really shows the bonding right away between James and Bruce. It really showed the bonding really well right away. I thought that was definitely very well done. Basically, basically what ends up happening is he tells him that his dad was killed by a drunk driver when he was his age, and says he was sitting right beside him, and he tells him that however scary the world is right now, there will be light again. And Bruce tells him they had just left the movie and were looking for a cab, and he tells the man was tall and was wearing a mask, and he doesn't know who he was. So we don't actually find out who he was in this episode, and Jim says there was nothing he could have done, but tells Bruce to be strong now. And that was definitely really interesting what happened there. So Jim promises him he'll find the man that did it, and an older man then shows up to the crime scene, and Bruce runs to him. And the man embraces him, and it's Alfred. And that was great to see, because obviously Alfred's going to take him in. Alfred's going to be his personal caretaker, his guardian. And I thought that was really well done, because of course, you have to have Alfred on the show. And he introduced himself to Jim, wished him luck on the case. He escorts Bruce away. And that's how we meet the first future, and that's basically how we meet Bruce Wayne. And I thought that was well done, definitely. Gotham, I was like, wow, Gotham's really off to a good start right now, because I didn't know how it was going to be, and I thought that was definitely well done, the way they were starting it out. I liked the way they were starting it out here. I thought it was well done. So then at the diner, Jim asks Harvey why they didn't stay at the crime scene when they moved the victims. And Harvey asks if he hasn't heard the Waynes. And Harvey says the case will be a shitstorm if they don't close it fast. And then a woman walks in, and Harvey curses. And Montoya and Allen from Major Crimes walk in and want to know if there are any leads. Which, Major Crimes is a show on TNT. Those are two characters from it, I guess. Not characters, but like actors. And they ask if they want them to take it off their hands, and Montoya tells them to do the right thing, and Harvey says to kiss his ass. He says he almost gave it to them, but they had to disrespect him, and Alan says to stay frosty, and they roll. So the mayor then makes a statement pledging that the Wayne's killers be caught, because this is the main thing right now. They need to catch the Wayne's killers. And the captain tells Harvey that he cannot have all the resources he needs to make sure he closed the case. So Harvey asks Jim to step out, and then Harvey and Essen get in a screaming match, and it's a very crazy screaming match there. So Harvey comes out, and Jim says, she said you had to keep me, and Harvey says she did since you're a war hero and your dad was a big deal, and Harvey tells him to step aside, and Jim refuses, and he calls Harvey a sloppy cynic. So Harvey tells him they need to go rouse some muggers, and they head out to try and solve it. And they nab one purse snatcher and beat him down, drag in mugger after mugger in interrogation. Just a lot of interrogations going on here. Tons of interrogation is going on at this point. And, so yeah, they're questioning people with the interrogation and everything. And, basically, they drag in, and Ed shows Harvey some evidence, and the bullet is a wad cutter, which is a $6 bullet, and he says it's a bullet from a gun that's not in their database. So their evidence is Edward Nygma, and that's huge, because Edward Nygma, of course, is going to be the Riddler. This is before they were their, this is before they turned into the criminals that they're going to become. So, Edward Nygma, that is the guy that apparently did it. And, Jim tells Harvey that he may not be looking for a street mugger, but a professional killer. So that definitely is very big. So I definitely feel that, I don't know if it's him, but it's definitely going to end up being one of the future Batman villains. Because if you think about it, the only reason Batman, Bruce Wayne turned into Batman was because he was getting revenge on his parents' death. That's why he did it. So Harvey says they need to go see Fish Mooney since the kill happened on her turf, and she works for Falcone. And Falcone, they head out to her club, they roll in and tell the barkeep to tell Fish they are there. And Fish Mooney, by the way, is a new character. They created her just for this show, and definitely a great character because Fish Mooney, forced to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, we got this guy Oswald. He is her umbrella guy, as in the Penguin. He's going to be the Penguin. They offer him a turn, beating the guy, and he giggles, and basically, Fish then kisses Harvey and Green and asks who Jim is, and he asks about the screaming and says an employee has been stealing, so they're beating her, and Harvey says she gets layaway, and he asks her about the Wayne murders, and Harvey tells Jim that he can feel free to go to see if anyone wants to press charges, and Jim walks off, and he sees Oswald being the guy with the bat. One of the guys calls Oswald the Penguin, and he says he doesn't like to be called that. Now, that's not gonna catch on. That's gonna catch on eventually, because, of course, he's gonna become the Penguin, so he's eventually gonna want to be called that. I don't know where they're trying to go with that, but I thought that was cool. The only thing is, they have way too many Gotham references. I get the Gotham references, but I don't like that every single one is, funny. I didn't exactly like that, and, I understand they're trying to do that, but you don't need to throw it in our face. We know they're going to become this character. You don't need to throw it in our face, and I feel like they're throwing it in our face, and that's one of the only things that kind of annoyed me about the show, was the fact that I felt like they were kind of throwing that in our face. So the guys, Butch and Oswald and Rao, they introduce themselves to Jim, and he asks them to drop the bat, then walks away. He finds Harvey and Fish laughing, and she kisses Harvey goodbye, gives Jim a tight look. Barbara is dressed to the nines, and Jim asks if they really have to go out and says he's beat. And she says no and asks about his day, and I like Barbara's character. She is his girlfriend, I believe. His wife, his ex-wife, well, she was his wife, because remember, this is before, what happened, the events that happened in Batman, because in Batman, of course, now I'm just reading this right now, because again, I'm not that familiar with Batman, I'm just looking at this right now, she is, divorced to him, so this is when they were together, so obviously something's gonna happen for them to, divorce. And he says they're not making progress on the Wayne case, and he feels very out of depth and may not be able to keep his word to Bruce. And she says that if he's out of his depth, he can swim. She asks if he's hungry and says once they're married, she's going to put him on a proper, healthy diet. So this is when we find out they're not married yet. They're engaged. So I thought that was well done. Again, I like the way they're setting this up, definitely. So his phone buzzes and he grabs it, and Harvey says he still has a lead and tells him to meet him, throws his clothes on, goes to meet Harvey as dawn breaks, and he finds Harvey still drinking. And he said Fish called and told him someone tried to fence Mrs. Wayne's necklace, and this was a guy named Pepper. A guy named Pepper tried to fetch it. So they go to this guy Pepper's house, they knock on a door, and we meet Ivy, who is this little girl. Now, Ivy, of course, is going to end up being Poison Ivy, who is the least famous, the least famous villain from the Batman franchise, but it was still cool to see her. I like seeing that little cameo there. And he says he was home all night, and they ask about the necklace. Harvey asks to look around. There are all kinds of plants around. Mario runs and jumps out the fire escape then to the room. There's tons of shit going on in this scene. Lots of shit going on here. Takes some pot shots at them. Jim tells him to stop or he'll shoot. He's out of bullets, and Jim hesitates. The guys run through a sweatshop. Jim gives chase, goes through a restaurant kitchen, grabs a knife, then down some stairs and into an alley. He pulls a gun, creeps around a corner, Mario jumps in with a knife, and then they grapple, then fight, both disarmed. And the guy is much bigger than Jim, as he's about to really hurt Jim. Harvey shoots him, and Jim thanks him for that, because he saved him, basically. So, that was good. So Jim gets his hand bandaged while the techs tear apart Mario's apartment, and they find the pearls there, which Harvey's thrilled, because that's what they need to do. They need to find the pearls. So it looks like they pretty much cracked the case here. It seems like their work here is done. I knew their work here wasn't done, though, because it's only, we're only, 40 minutes done with the episode. There's no way they're done yet. It was, 35 minutes or something like that? There's no way they were done yet. So, basically, what ends up happening is Jim, basically, we then see the funeral of, Bruce's parents, and it's really sad to watch. Bruce is very emotional here, and there's a huge crowd of mourners. And we see Catwoman again, there as well as hiding among the tombstones and watching. And Jim is there and tells Bruce he's very sorry he didn't get to see a trial. And Bruce thanks him, and he heads off with Alfred. And Montoya shows up to Barbara's place, and she apologized for dropping by out of the blue. They swap pleasantries, and she tells her she's engaged, and she tells her that Jim and Harvey framed and killed an innocent man. So, that's really big there. And she tells him that Jim is not a good guy. She tells Montoya that he's one of the best men she's ever known. And Montoya asks if Jim knows her like she knows her. And that night, Jim brings Barbara a drink and asks what's wrong. And she asks if he framed Mario. And he says no. And asks who told her that, and she says no one, and he says she's lying. And so he's, pretty much does not trust her at this point. And the next day, he chases down Montoya and asks for evidence that Mario was framed. And she says he'll see the evidence when they drag he and his crook friend into court. And he tells her that he'll find it himself. So he's pretty much determined to do this. So he goes to that guy Pepper's house, because again, that guy Pepper was the guy that supposedly did this. And he comes to talk to his widow. And he comes in and asks the wife about the necklace. And Ivy says bastards planted it. And he asks Alice about the necklace got there. And he asks to see her husband's shoes. He looks at them and asks if it's all of them. He curses. And Jim tells Harvey that Mario was framed and it was likely Fish. He says she may have done it for Falcone. And Harvey asks why he's thinking this. And he says it came from Montoya. He tells him that Mario didn't own any shiny shoes, and Harvey says the case is closed and just to forget about it. They're done with this case and just forget about it because it's pointless at this point. So, then we see Jim says that this means that the real killer's out there, and Harvey says this is very dangerous stuff and to let it go. And Jim then shows up at Fish's bar and tells Oswald to tell Fish that he's there. He asks her what she talked to Harvey about, and she tells him to talk to Harvey. And he says Harvey might lie. He starts to go, and Fish tells him to wait. She says she has danger in his eye and wonders what he plans to do with it. And she tells him she hates surprises. Her goons go to jump him. He fights them off when she bashes him in the head with a lamp, which was really intense. I wasn't expecting that at all. That was definitely really just like, I was just like, holy shit, that was intense. So Barbara then shows up at the police department asking Harvey where Jim is, and he says he never came home last night. And Harvey lies and says he's on stakeout and that his phone probably ran out of juice, which he knows is not the truth. We then see Jim dragged into a warehouse with bloody plastic tarps and sides of beef, and he comes to and yells, wait. He's told to shut up and is kicked in the head, wakes up, hung upside down behind the cow carcasses, and Harvey then shows up and tells Butch he knows this is where they take their problems, and he says he needs to talk to Fish alone. She is auditioning a comedian. She laughs and gets a call, and she tells the guy to put Harvey on, and he tells her not to be like that and to let Jim go. She says he's an idiot, and he says major crimes is on the frame and that they won't stop, and he says someone talking it's likely one of her people. She says no, but then looks at Oswald, and he tells her that if she takes out her partner, he's coming after her. There's no question there. He's coming after her no matter what. So she agrees, but says he has to keep Jim under control, and she has to talk to Butch and then tell him that Harvey threatened her and tells him to hang him up with his partner. So Harvey kneels to tell Jim that they're going home, but Butch knocks him out. She asks Oswald to rub her feet and asks the comedian to give her a moment. He tells Oswald that she should be the one to take over for Falcone, and she says that he's just like a son to her, and that's why he would betray her to the cops, and she says he snitched and he says he didn't. And Fish says he's the only one that saw her with the pearls, but he says it was Gazillion, and he says Gazillion is loyal, and he says he is and would open a vein, and she hands him a knife and says to prove it, she calls him her little penguin, which again will catch on. She smashes a chair into him, beats him with a chair, screams at him that he broke her heart, and he cries out in pain. So that was really intense. And then we get a really good scene here. I really like this next scene, what happened here. Because Jim asks Harvey how he's doing, and he says he's been better. And Butch tells Harvey if it was up to him, he'd get a bullet in the head and a decent funeral. But Fish has her ways. So he calls for Frankie. Frankie is a giant guy with meat clever. But then some guys with guns come in and shoot Frankie and his sidekick, and it's Falcone. And he tells Gazillion to tell Fish she has to have permission to kill cops, and he tells his guys to cut them down as Harvey reiterates there are rules. And Falcone tells Jim it's good to meet him, and he says he knew and admired his father. He says he was the best DA the city had, and says they were friends. Now remember, Jim's father died in a car accident, which was really sad, so that scene I really like that scene. And he says that's the reason that he's alive, because of his father, basically. And Jim says he knows that he owns the mayor and the police department, and he says he thinks Fish had a replica. And Jim realizes he doesn't know who killed the Waynes. He has no idea who killed, Bruce Wayne's parents. He has no idea. So he says that they sacrificed Mario because people needed to see quick justice done. They need to see some sort of criminal be taken out because there's so much crime going on in the city right now. It makes sense why they want to do that because there's way too much crime going on in the city right now. Just way too much of it. So Falcone said they sacrificed Mario because people, I just said that. He tells Jimmy he has a hard head like his dad, and he says Gotham is on knife edge here. And he says if he brings down City Hall and the cops, it won't make anything better. So Falcone tells him, Mbaka all loop in lupo, which means break a leg, and Harvey admits he wasn't telling him the truth, and he opens the trunk and shows him Oswald. He has Oswald trapped in the trunk, and I thought that was a really awesome scene, the way that was done. It was a really good speech as well. I thought that was definitely a good message. He then tells Jim that Falcone wants him to walk him off the pier to show he's with the program. And Harvey says if he doesn't, then he has to take both of them out, and then someone will arise to take Barbra out. And he reminds him he killed people in war, and Jim says this isn't war, but Harvey says it is, and it's true if you think about it. It really is a war because these criminals are they're not gonna stop, really. They're not gonna stop because they're criminals. They're just not gonna stop. So Oswald is terrified, though. He's acting like a real pussy, really. He's completely terrified. And Jim grabs Oswald out of the trunk, and he tells him to walk, and Oswald hobbles toward the end of the pier. Jim has a gun in his hand, and he looks back at Harvey, and Oswald begs him to live and says he'll be his slave for life. Like, he really thought that was going to work. He really thought that. And he tells him there's a war coming, there'll be rivers of blood in the streets, and he can help him, and he will be his spy. So, basically, he's going to actually help him here, it seems. It seems like he's trying to strike a deal here. So he tells him to turn around, and he points a gun to his head. Oswald begs for mercy, and Jim tells him to never come back to Gotham, and he doesn't kill him. But he makes it look to Harvey that he did kill him, but he didn't. He just fires by his head so it looks like he shot him. He then shoves him into the water, and he swims away. So Harvey thinks he killed him, but he didn't. So I really like that because that definitely is going to be a big plot, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go because, as I said, that definitely is going to be definitely a big plot that definitely they're going to talk about. So he comes home, and Barbra tells him she was worried. She asks what happened, and he just hugs her, and yeah, so that basically is what happens there. But again, he really can't trust Barbra because she's working with someone who she doesn't really think he's a good person right now. So the question is, does she really trust him? I'm really not sure if Barbra trusts him all the way. He has no idea that she doesn't really trust him at this point, but I am wondering if Barbra, if Barbra actually trusts him. I want to know if that's what's going on there. So let me know what you guys think of that. So at the Waynes, Jim drives up and sees Bruce atop the battlements, and he looks very concerned and points up, and Alfred comes up and yells up at Bruce to get his bloody ass down, and Jim asks why he was up there, and Bruce says he's conquering fear, and I like what he says here. Jim tells him that fear is a good thing because it tells you where the edge is, and that makes sense because if you're afraid of something, it shows you that everyone has limits. That's really what that message is, that really every sort of person has limits, even though people that are daredevils, they have limits. Everyone is afraid of something, and I really like that definitely. So, Jim tells him that Mario was framed and didn't kill them, and Alfred asks who really did it and tells him it was stunning work, and he says he's sorry, and it's really sad because, again, he couldn't find his killer. However, Bruce says he's glad to be alive because he wants to see him again. And you can definitely see that Bruce and Jim are starting a very good friendship, and Jim says he's going to find the man who did it and will clean up the police department. He asks them to keep quiet about what he's told them, and Alfred says that's convenient. Bruce tells Alfred to shut up, and I thought that was kind of funny. Jim hands the boy his badge, and Bruce hands it back. Jim thanks him, he drives away, and I thought that was overall good. And then we see Selina Kyle watching him come and go from the gates, and I'm wondering why we keep seeing this. We keep seeing Selina Kyle watch from the gates. I don't know why we keep seeing it, but We keep seeing it for whatever reason. We keep seeing her watch from the gates. I don't know. We just do. Apparently, the next episode is called Selina Kyle, so definitely something is going to happen with her character in the next episode. I don't know what, but she definitely is, like, a runaway, a criminal, definitely, and she's hiding out, so definitely something is going to happen with her in the next episode. So Oswald then surfaces with a gas from the freezing water, and he sneaks up on a man fishing, grabs a knife, slits the man's throat, grabs a sandwich, and shoves it in his mouth, and that's how it ends. I thought that was a strange ending, but overall, I really enjoyed this pilot. I thought it was good. Is it a perfect show? No. I have to say, it's probably the weakest superhero show on TV right now. It's not better than Arrow. It's certainly not better than The Flash. The Flash is still the best new fall show so far. It's not better than either of those shows. However, it is a very good show. Let's talk about the acting on the show. Ben McKenzie as James Gordon, as, Jim, is really good. I really like his acting. I think his character is very interesting. And, he has the part down very well. And the thing is, these are not characters that are new, except for Fish, which we'll talk about. But I thought his character was definitely really good, and I really do enjoy his character. I thought definitely he was very good on the show. Donald Logue plays Harvey. I like the chemistry between the two of them as leads. I think they're both really good leads on the show. Definitely, I really like that, and I thought they were both very good, definitely. Also, I like that this show does have comedic moments, because if you remember, DC put out that rule where they're not allowed to have, it's really stupid, they're not allowed to have, funny moments on a movie, so it was cool to see that in a TV show. And I do agree what people said. The show really does play out as an hour-long movie, if you think about it. David Mazouz as Bruce Wayne, he was good. I thought he was good, but he is definitely not the best child actor I've seen. With a child actor, they're either good or they're bad. This kid is just okay. I really didn't have anything to say much with him. I thought he was good, but I've seen better child acting, definitely. He's not the best child actor or anything. He's not going to win any Emmys or anything. I thought he was just okay. And that's not really a good thing, because when you're dealing with someone like Bruce Wayne, you have to have a really good child actor for that. And especially because we all know the show is going to end with Bruce Wayne turning into Batman. And probably, if this show does get renewed, the final seasons are going to be focused on Bruce Wayne, I'm assuming. I'm assuming it's going to be focused on Bruce Wayne. So, if you want to really have a good, character like Bruce Wayne, you got to have a better actor, and this kid's acting was just okay. I like the bonding between Bruce Wayne and Jim, but really the kid didn't seem to, I don't know, something about him I didn't like as much. He wasn't the best or anything. Sean Pertwee as Alfred. We did not see enough of Alfred in this episode. Alfred's a huge character, very important character, because he's Batman's legal guardian, so we need to see more of him, definitely. I really like Robin Lord Taylor as Oswald. I like how he's kind of a pussy and really just, I like how he doesn't like being called the Penguin. I think that's kind of funny, because eventually he's going to be called that. He kind of reminds me of Juice from Sons of Anarchy. He's a very pussy kind of character. He's not dumb, he's just like sort of a pussy. He really is. Erin Richards as Barbara Keene. I like her character, and I'm looking forward to seeing, do you really think that she trusts Jim? She doesn't seem to at this point. Cameron Bicondova as Selina Kyle. I have nothing to say about her because she has no lines, so I don't know what to say about her. From her acting, she seemed good, but by far the best part of the show is Jada Pinkett Smith as Fish Mooney. She was absolutely fantastic in this role. By far the best villain on the show. I thought she was just fantastic, and one of the things I loved about her character was, one, she's an original character, and it doesn't take long for us to really like her character. I loved her character. I thought she was really funny, and she had a lot of really funny scenes, definitely. So, her character I really enjoyed. Definitely really great acting from her, and I really enjoyed her character. The directing on the show is really good. I really like the tone that they're going with. I think the directing is really good. The cinematography is great. I love the cinematography. I love that it's shot in the actual New York. If you guys don't know, it's actually shot in New York, which is good. I like that they do that. The editing is sort of a problem for me. There were some scenes that dragged on a little bit too much, especially in the, I'd say first 15 minutes. There were some scenes that dragged on a little too much that didn't really need to be in there. I understand that they were trying to set up the characters, but there were some scenes that did not need to be in there. But overall, I really enjoyed this premiere, even though the ending was weird. I'm gonna admit, the ending was weird. I don't know what was up with the ending, but something about it was weird. Let me know if you guys saw this premiere. Do you think that Barbara trusts Jim? I really don't know. I don't know if she trusts him at this point. We'll have to see what happens there. Is Jim going to find Bruce Wayne's kill? Obviously, he's going to. What do you guys think of the acting? Is this show going to last? I don't know if this show is going to last. I feel this show is going to be like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It gets really good ratings in the first few episodes. However, there's a little show coming on called The Originals, and when The Originals comes on, I'm not watching Gotham live. I'm not. I'm watching The Originals live because that's the show that matters more to me, is The Originals. I don't want to watch Gotham over The Originals. I'll watch The Originals, definitely, because that show's just better, in my opinion. And the show definitely does have a lot of problems. My other problem with the show is they really showed way too many characters in this episode. Way too many villains in this episode, definitely. They did not need to show all the characters that they showed. We did not really need to see the Riddler in this episode. We didn't. He was pointless. We saw him in one scene, and we didn't really need to see him after that. We did not need to see... In my opinion, we did not need to see a lot of Poison Ivy. I understand her character was important on this episode, but we did not need to see a lot of her. We could have done without her, I think. I really do think we could have done without her. And that's really... We did not need to see Selina Kyle either. I feel like they introduced way too many characters on this episode, definitely, and that was sort of a problem for me. However, I do really like the show. Let me know what you guys think of the show. I know some people have had very mixed thoughts, but I will see you guys in my next video. And again, I don't hate this pilot. I think it's really good. I think it is a really good show. It just has a lot of problems, like a lot of pilots. There's no pilot that is really perfect. Well, there are some pilots that are perfect, but this was not one of them. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Sons of Anarchy. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.